Today on Newsbeat, more resources for trans and gender non-conforming students at Columbia College.
And next Friday's Manifest, we got an inside look at what you can expect at the event.
The search is on for a school mascot at Columbia College. We hear from students. Good morning and happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm Jake Fredrickson.
And I'm Rosemary Murillo. Welcome to Newsbeat. Thanks for joining us today. Some college students across the country are speaking up alongside their trans and gender nonconforming peers against anti-trans legislation. Newsbeat Nathan Fournier and Bianca Crusoe take a look into how Columbia students feel at this time.
As Pride Month comes in less than a month, June also marks a halfway point in our calendar. And according to the ACLU, 471 anti-LGBTQ bills have been tracked so far in 2023. As this legislation has been introduced across different states, both students from University at Buffalo and the University of Iowa have protested their institutions due to on-campus events that include speakers like Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles, who both have stated anti-trans rhetoric.
While it's clear to see that other institutions are facing backlash from their students, I wanted to see with trans and gender nonconforming Columbia students if they feel that our institution is a place where they feel comfortable and confident in.
I think at Columbia we do live in a bubble of kind of like a liberal mindset, but Chicago still isn't entirely just left. So yeah, there is, even you could even walk down the street here and get called a slur by someone. Even just being more verbal and the emails and newsletters that they send out of just we see you and this is where you can go if anything like that happens to you.
I think Columbia is a safe space for trans and gender nonconforming students, mainly due to just the students themselves, the student body. I also do feel that SDI does a really good job of creating programming and facilitating events that make us feel welcomed and safe. Throughout the year they spread it and I really appreciate that. I think Columbia as an institution needs some work, but SDI specifically and the student body, I think that's what does a good job of making me feel welcomed.
Offices on campus, like student diversity and inclusion, provide services like programs and workshops, and also communicate to different Columbia communities about topics that may affect them.
Things happen around the world that impact our students, especially things connected to identity. It's really important for us as an office to be responsive to that, and also to be a place where students are able to process, where they're able to make meaning of what's happening in the world as they, figure out who they are and where they want to go and where they want to be.
Clubs and events like the brand new Trans Fam have begun this semester to create a space open for all students, but focuses on empowering trans and gender nonconforming students to have an outlet.
We have a new organization, Trans Fam, who we were lucky enough to, partner with for Trans Day Visibility a couple of weeks ago, and just amazing to sort of be in that space, right, and watch students, they're sharing information about where you can go for different health services, where you can go, for community events and, that kind of thing. And so students are doing so much of that work. And as an institution, I think we're always trying to catch up to where our students are.
If you yourself want to get involved with Columbia's on-campus resources like Trans Fam, they have their meetings here in the library on the 4th floor, 6:30 every Thursday. You can also find them on Instagram at WhatUpTFam. This is Nathan Fournier, Newsbeat, Columbia College, Chicago.
Columbia College Chicago will be lifting COVID-19 restrictions on campus just in time for Manifest. As of May 12th, there will be no more formal COVID requirements on campus or at Columbia-sponsored events. This means that there will be no vaccine requirements and masks will be optional at both commencement and Manifest. This decision comes after the federal government announced that the national and public health emergencies regarding the pandemic will end on May 11th.
The Columbia Chronicle is now reporting stories in a new language. Reporters Iglali Magali Sotelo and photojournalist Andres Guerra have more about the newest addition to the newspaper.
For the first time in its history, the Columbia Chronicle has welcomed in a new section in the Spanish language, La Crónica, which began earlier this year. In addition to reporting in Spanish, the Chronicle has created a new position, Reporters in Spanish, to contribute to La Crónica for the fall 2023 semester. Miranda Bucio was the first contributor to La Crónica earlier this year, with 2 of her articles being published online.
I feel very proud and honored to be one of the first reporters to write for the news section of the Chronicle La Crónica. Yeah, it feels really good because I feel like we finally have this space for like inclusive reporting and have like Spanish like speaking Columbia students and family members who are comfortable reading and writing in Spanish, and like I feel like they can finally read the news that is happening in Colombia. Yeah.
Reporting in the Spanish media, Professor Elio Leturia was very excited when he found out about La Crónica.
It's a big step in the right direction after so many years. I think the Chronicle is like 50 years old, and especially now that our student population, the Latino population, has increased, and not all of them speak Spanish, of course, but they are going to see stories about their own lives and about their own circumstance represented on the paper.
About a month ago, I actually pitched a story to the Chronicle, not knowing if it would be published into La Crónica, but it did. It has recently been printed out in their latest print issue, making it the first ever Spanish article in print for La Crónica. Now, if you're interested in being a contributing writer in the Chronicle or possibly in La Crónica, you can always go to their website and find their Google form. In the South Loop and in the Columbia Chronicle office, Itlali Magali Sotelo, Columbia College, Chicago.
Today is Cinco de Mayo. Many people think the unofficial holiday is Mexican Independence Day, but it isn't. Professor Marcelo Sabates teaches Intro to Latin American Studies and gave us more about the history behind this day.
It was a battle called the Battle of Puebla, like in the city Puebla, the Battle of Puebla, and that was the first attempt of the French to invade Mexico in 1862. In fact, the French tried to invade Mexico, so symbolically it was very important. Sadly, 2 years later, the French came back with many more troops and finally invaded Mexico and put an emperor for 3 years, Maximiliano. Only lasted 3 years, and then Benito Juarez again regained sovereignty for Mexico. So that's what happened in Cinco de Mayo, the Battle of Puebla. 2,000 Mexican troops defeated like 6,000 French troops.
Wow, that's fascinating to hear. I always thought Cinco de Mayo was just about Mexican independence.
There's so much more to the celebration. And Manifest is next week. Holly Angus has more on what we can expect.
I'll show you where you can get one of these Manifest t-shirts.
And the weather is warming up. We'll have your weekly forecast.
Once there was a boy who did the same thing again and again. One day, he was told he had autism. He got help and slowly learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Put the keys down, Kevin.
But I'm gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
My text to emoji ratio has gotten a little out of hand.
A little?
Yep, I'm definitely gonna call a ride home.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Son, love is like the ocean. You have to tread the waters.
Dad, that's not the kind of help I needed. Jessica, will you go to prom with me?
Yes.
Thousands of teens in foster care can't wait to share their first with you.
Spending time outdoors has never felt more valuable. Whether it's exploring nature or relaxing in your yard, let's do it responsibly. Before going out, check for closures and fire restrictions. Practice social distancing, even when outside and on the trail. Back at home, if burning yard debris, keep your pile small. And no matter where you are, be sure to properly extinguish any outdoor fire. Drown, stir, drown, feel. We're all in this together. Help keep our safe places safe.
With Manifest only a week away, find out what to expect. Reporter Holly Angus and photojournalist Kevin Atkinson have more.
With final Manifest preparations well underway, it's time to start getting excited for Columbia's biggest event of the year. Let's take a look.
Columbia's 2023 Manifest celebrations will take place on Friday the 12th of May, kicking off at 1 p.m, and with a jam-packed lineup, it's set to be an incredible day. With over 100 exhibits, screenings, presentations and more, you won't be short of options. This year's Manifest is set to showcase students' work from all majors and will be bigger and better than ever. Manifest will take over Columbia's South Loop campus with outdoor venues like The Garden, a main stage and Manafresh on Wabash and Bablow. This event would not be possible without the hard work of students like 2023 MFA graduate Melanie Silva.
Well, it introduces a lot of outsiders to Columbia College Chicago. They get to see what we produce here as artists. The families of the students come in and they get to see what their student is producing as well as other people. So it's just a great way to introduce the entire Chicago area to our school.
With the last two manifests being cancelled or virtual due to COVID-19, Student Programming Board President Jill Baker is anticipating a lot more fanfare this year.
We were just recently notified that the COVID rule and protocols are going to be lifted on the day of Manifest, so I feel like it's going to be a lot more attendees. I feel like it is going to be a lot more children as well. Of course, Manifest is open to all ages, so I feel like we've been, especially on SPB's end, we've been really encouraging all ages to attend, letting them know that this is a free event.
Baker and the Student Programming Board are excited to put on a bigger show.
One thing that we decided to do different than in previous years is instead of having just maybe 6 artists and like 4 or 5 DJs on the main stage, we have been able to manage 12 different artists to be featured on the main stage along with 7 different DJs. So I kind of wanted to just double it this year. There's so many talented students at Columbia. I just want to make sure that all of them felt represented at Manifest.
Find out where you can get one of these Manifest t-shirts. Come down to the 2nd floor of the Student Center in the Makerspace from the hours of 10 till 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. To get your hands on these free t-shirts. Thanks guys, back to you in the studio.
As graduation approaches, Columbia has announced its lineup for speakers for the upcoming ceremonies. On Saturday, May 13th, Chris Jones, author and theater critic, who is known for his reviews of Chicago and Broadway and Chicago over the last 20 years for the Chicago Tribune, will join faculty, families, and students speaking at both ceremonies. Bobby Wilson, a distinguished jazz and blues vocalist recognized for her 40 years of service at Columbia College Chicago, will speak at both ceremonies on Sunday, May 14th.
Is it time for Columbia to consider a change to our sports teams and have an official mascot? Zaid Hussein and photojournalist Patrick Response went out to ask students what they think a new mascot should be.
Our first guest today, Jalen Jones, Columbia College student, freshman here at Columbia, obviously a talented artist. Jalen, check out the Zach Levine painting. Talk to me about when you got into art in the first place.
What got me into art was pretty much like inspired by other people and how much time it took for them to create certain pieces and like the outcome of the pieces that they create. Like for example, I know a few Instagram artists who've taken like weeks, days, months on certain pieces, and they come out to be amazing pieces that get everyone's attention as far as like the amount of colors, the character itself, the shading, other different techniques used in the painting or piece. I think a mascot for us that I think would fit, because it's an art school, we would probably have one that's like an artist holding like a paintbrush and a paint pad. Or as far as like sports teams go, we could probably have like a sort of like a bobcat or like a lizard or a bird or something.
I would envision it to be more like like a bear with like a artist palette holding like a paintbrush or something.
I would say something like cute, like a bunny or something like that.
I think the next mascot should be a pigeon.
A pigeon?
Because,
give me the reasoning here.
I mean, because we always see them. We're in the city, you know. They're just there.
I think we can be the Columbia Cheetahs. I think that would be kind of cool.
Columbia Cheetahs. All right, a little CC. I like it. Yeah, no, that's different. I like that a lot.
Mascot-wise, I think the symbol right now is almost kind of like a fire sign. So I think something to do with fire. But I guess my vision would just be maybe even like I want to say tiger, but something to do with fire, but the animal I'm getting is tiger.
Definitely.
I don't know about a pigeon, but I did work at a costume shop. Maybe they can help us out.
You know, that doesn't surprise me at all, Jake. Warm weather is on the way, bringing with it a perfect opportunity to enjoy the outdoors. Stay tuned for more details.
There's some big fights coming up this weekend at UFC 288, and Chicago's own Bilal Muhammad is in the co-main event. We have more coming up on sports. With that, back to you guys.
When we adopt a shelter pet, we discover they're a unique mix of all kinds of things.
There it is. Keep going with it. Leo.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.
Being prepared is a part of who you are, but it's especially important in the case of a disaster. Be informed about possible emergencies in your area. Make a plan that covers where you go in an emergency. Build a kit with the things you need to survive. There's no one more capable of planning for your situation than you. Start your plan today. Go to ready.gov/myplan.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
There's a lot of fear in coming back to school. I'm a 40-year-old man that walked in there to get his high school diploma. It was very hard for me, but one of the teachers was Miss Araceli. She gave me direction. Every single time I had a question, she'll put down whatever she's doing and she'll sit there with you until you get it. 50% of getting your high school diploma is walking through those doors. The other 50% is doing the work.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
This week is looking warmer. High of 79 out today and a chance of rain Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with warmer temperatures. Tuesday and Wednesday temps drop a bit. Tuesday 68 and Wednesday 64. Thunderstorms Thursday and cloudy, and a high of 77 for the rest of the week.
Columbia College Chicago students partnered with the Chicago Women's Park and Gardens to host an art fair that features local artists. The event is called the One Stop Art Fair and will take place on Saturday, May 6th from 12 to 4 p.m. The One Stop Art Fair is free to attend and is located at the Chicago Park and Gardens on 1801 South Indiana Avenue. For more information on the attending artists and the event, visit www.onestopartfair.wixsite.com.
There's some big UFC fights this weekend. Zaid Hussein has the latest and more on Newsbeat Sports.
In sports today, we have a huge upcoming fight this weekend for UFC 288. In the main event, we will see a highly anticipated return of former bantamweight and flyweight champion Henry Cejudo, who also happens to be the youngest Olympic gold medalist. Cejudo will be seeking to regain his belt after vacating it 3 years ago due to retirement. His opponent, current champion Aljamain Sterling, who is coming off a dominant victory over TJ Dillashaw. The fight is currently listed at a pick'em as both fans and odd makers view it as a 50-50 fight. Sterling's wrestling and grappling abilities are his biggest assets, as he excels at taking his opponents down and controlling them with the body triangle. However, this will not be the case when fighting Henry Cejudo, as his wrestling abilities are far superior in this matchup. Cejudo is far more comfortable in the stand-up, and his boxing and understanding of distance are his most underrated strengths when it comes to this fight. He has shown his ability to overcome adversity against fighters like Marlon Moraes, who put him away after dropping the first round. Cejudo is a natural winner, and having won the Olympics at such a young age and being a former two-division world champion, having the best fight IQ in the business, with his speed criminally underrated going into this fight, we may hear and new once again. In the co-main event, we have a 5-round number 1 contender bout between two of the hottest fighters in the welterweight division, Gilbert Burns and Belal Muhammad. Burns fresh off a victory over Jorge Masvidal, while Muhammad hasn't fought since his TKO victory over Sean Brady. From a stylistic viewpoint of this fight, this is a fight that favors Gilbert Burns. Muhammad has been successful in exposing his opponent's biggest weaknesses in previous fights, but in this bout, he doesn't have an area where he can attack like he did in previous fights. Burns has shown the ability to get back to his feet against some of the best wrestlers in the division, such as Khamzat Chimaev, and his jiu-jitsu and ground game are levels above Belal's. This is a fight that will undoubtedly play out on the feet, and while Muhammad is known for his pressure like we've seen in previous fights, against tougher competition against Leon Edwards and Vicente Luque, he was on the back foot. This mostly had to do with the power disadvantage Muhammad has had on the feet and overall discomfort he's had in general when facing the upper class of the welterweight division. We saw him outgunned and pressured against Jeff Neal, and we may see it again Saturday night against Gilbert Burns. I predict that Burns will pressure Belal and keep him on his back foot, Burns having the power advantage and is unlike anyone Muhammad has faced in the past. The opening line of -180 is more accurate than the current line of -125, and therefore I give out Burns as my best bet of the night for this weekend at UFC 288. That's all for sports this week. Back to you guys.
Next week, Friday, May 12th, is our last edition of Newsbeat. We'll have a special look at the behind-the-scenes action of our show.
And we talk with graduating students about the internships, their time at Columbia, and the future. That's all for this week on Newsbeats. It's a busy time of year for us students, but make sure to get out and enjoy the nice weather.
Enjoy your weekend, and good luck on finals.